Scott Dixon.
You mean Ronald Scott Dixon?
Scott Ronald Glendower. You don't have I have two middle names.
What is Glendower?
Yeah, my grandfather. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I can't make fun of that.
No. Well, you can.
Nah. You're a more fit man than me.
Which is weird because you guys are about the same age.
Yeah, we were going to pull that joke, but we didn't.
Yeah, you
we were
let it
going to
go.
ask you how old you thought I was.
How old do you think he is?
32.
Oh, f*** off.
All right. With all that, one word to describe this dinner with racers.
Wankers.
Send it.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
Dinner with Racers, season number 3.
I'm Ryan Eversley.
I'm Sean Heckman.
And I'm Ryan Eversley.
Great, we know.
We are driving the Acura MDX on Continental Tires from Charlotte to Atlanta, Georgia right now.
Atlanta.
And we are on day 34. Now, when I say day 34, I mean day 34 stuck in a car with another dude driving around the country, 25 states for 13,000 miles to bring you 29 episodes of your favorite podcast based on motorsports and eating.
Now, we assume most people know who Scott Dixon is, but in case you don't, he is a true legend of the modern IndyCar scene. He has won not 1, but 4 IndyCar championships and the Indy 500, and I would say in the modern era is considered one of, if not the best driver in the IndyCar Series.
One of the things I liked about this episode is that everybody that knows Scott on a personal level swears by his personality and sense of humor. So we went and tried to find it, and guess what?
Found
it's
it.
real.
Found it.
It's real.
So we learned a ton of things about him. We learned about what a future earnings deal is,
How many sheep are in New Zealand?
rolling a Nissan Sentra while wearing a pillow.
We got his side of the most famous robbery of Indianapolis history at a Taco Bell.
Huge thanks to Mr. Mike Hull for really helping put this together. The dude's been a huge advocate for us. Huge thanks to his former teammate, Mr. Dario Franchitti, for driving us in this lovely Acura MDX.
Seriously, I really need to pee. Come on.
Well, seriously, I really need you to hold it. We're
Yeah.
making good time.
Just hold on.
Jeez.
And, of course, thank you to, our sponsor.
Are we going to say it?
Yeah.
Continental Tire.
No.
What?
Say it.
Continental Tire.
It.
Like the way they like it.
Yeah, they demand.
Continental Tire.
Scott Dixon.
All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, Sean. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, it's all right. Have a seat. So we like to put you awkwardly in the middle of a giant gap for us. Is this going to be weird? Are you all right like this? Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and put that on.
Your car's subtle.
So it's working.
All right.
Yeah, so it's working.
That, my friend, is marketing. There we go.
So we're told that you have a murdered out MDX.
Oh, it's just all black. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have what we have now. As you
That's
just
murdered out, man. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
You're not going to miss it.
Did you park next to us?
I think it is. Yeah, no,
That's a
park.
photo
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
park right next
Yeah.
to
We're
it.
doing
Yeah.
Cool. T's going to love that. Yeah.
So how you guys been? Been traveling around a little bit?
We kind of
Technically, this is. I mean, we did a thing with Dario last
Yeah.
week, but that was like we were in Sonoma for
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
our stuff,
yep.
so I wouldn't call that part of our trip. Technically, our trip started yesterday, so
Okay.
we went to Knoxville, Tennessee
Oh, wow.
for Dr. Jerry Punch, and then
Oh, cool.
and then you're our first one in Indy, and we're here for a couple of days.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
How many guys you got here in Indy? You got a few?
Well, that's a moving target.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what you know about racers, but they're not always the most reliable people. And Ryan would know. And
Scheduling's a bitch too.
yeah,
like
yeah.
I left you guys a little late too, and trying to figure out when I was going to be back because I leave again today.
Well, you were you were just in Sebring. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I got back this morning, and then I leave
Jesus.
tonight. We test the Ford tomorrow.
Oh,
at
the GT car.
Mid Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Jeez.
cool.
Well, are you okay being here?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
man.
you're not in
Yeah,
trouble?
it's all
He's
good.
got to eat.
It's all
Yeah,
good.
I'm
I'm hungry, man.
funny. We came here last year to this. We've been in this restaurant now.
This is like our home away from home.
Yeah, 4 or 5 times,
Yeah.
and it's almost always like recommended by the guest.
Yeah.
And so last year we were here with Rocket from IndyCar.
Yeah.
And he was sitting where you're sitting, and Marco Andretti walked in.
Yep.
And his sister, Marissa.
Marissa.
They came
yeah.
in, and
Yeah.
then they sat down with Scott Dixon.
Yeah.
You guys were here the same day
oh,
we were,
oh,
and
really?
we're like,
yeah.
is that
Yeah.
like half the IndyCar paddock?
Yeah.
Well, then Newgarden had kind of like
He came in.
He came in.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you remember the day?
Yeah. I totally remember it. Yeah.
So we're sitting here, and Rocket's like, "Oh yeah, I know those guys."
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
Newgarden
yeah.
comes in. Well, he had kind of like given us a slip a
Okay.
little bit.
Yeah.
So then he comes in like, "Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
like, just like,
hey guys."
I didn't get back to you, did
Yeah,
I? Like, was
yeah.
that move? Like,
Yeah.
we're
He's
good.
big time, man.
Yeah.
Big time. These guys. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we've been here a handful of times, but obviously you have too.
Yeah, it used to be. I think Mike Hull was probably the
We went here with Mike.
first
Yep.
guy I
Yeah.
came here with,
Yeah.
and then Chip likes to come here quite often
Oh.
if he's in town. So, and then Marco always if he's at the shop.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely
That's the place.
Yeah.
it is the place. It's close to the shops and everything.
So you were testing yesterday. Did you drive the new
Yeah.
bodywork stuff?
So I think we were probably the first. I think actually maybe both Honda cars had the new brake system, the new Cosworth data system,
Yeah.
and aero kit. So there was a lot to get through.
Sure.
It was pretty interesting to start with. There had a lot of issues to start with, but it got running pretty good in the end. Like we it's definitely a different car to drive. It's going to be. I think downforce kind of cures a lot of things, and now you've got a lot less of it. So it definitely exposed the car a ton. Especially braking is going to be a big issue. But I think they need to almost do a tire to suit it too.
Okay.
They'd kind of stiffened the sidewall so much, I think, with the heavy downforce that we'd had, that it's they brought a kind of semi option where they'd softened it a little bit, and it was a lot better. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it races.
So you're in Sebring yesterday for that test with 1 day test.
Yeah, so this trip started Friday. Friday I was in New York. We had a dinner in New York. Then we had Marco Andretti's wedding on the Saturday. Then I had the Bonacconi Foundation Fund dinner in New York on Monday night. And then I didn't get to Sebring until 3 in the morning Monday. Tested yesterday.
Right.
Here today. And then Mid-Ohio tomorrow.
So we're part of the tour.
Yeah.
We're part of the
yeah.
off-season media tour.
I was hoping to see my oldest daughter, but I was meant to catch a flight last night. They ended up extending yesterday's test from 5 to 6, which they always do. So I missed my flight.
So we're literally home wreckers, is what you're saying.
No.
That's
And then
fine.
my oldest daughter left a camp. She's only 8. It's her first camp, but she left at 7 this morning. But I didn't get in until
There's just no
11.
way.
So yeah.
So do you fly private or do you go corporate from?
Commercial this
Commercial,
morning,
sorry,
but
yeah.
yeah, we had
Yeah.
to for the test had to fly private.
Right. Yeah. Because Sebring's kind of a bitch to get in and out of.
it sucks.
Yeah. You got to fly into Orlando and then
Yeah.
drive 2 hours on like the worst streets.
US 27
Yeah.
is the worst
Yeah.
road in
Yeah.
America, I think.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's good if you want to like bed brakes or something in a car. You stop literally every 500 meters.
Right.
But yeah. So yeah, no, it's been, and then we got Petite next week, and
Yeah.
then I think I have a couple of more tests in the new IndyCar. I think what do we do? Mid-Ohio and that, and also Indianapolis maybe. I don't know. I can't remember the schedule totally.
So how does
but-
that work with a new car? Because I mean, this is once Petite is over, technically you're in your off season. But with the new car, there's I assume more testing than there maybe would have been in the past, and I assume it's changing by the week as far as when it's going to happen.
It's set till Christmas right now. The hard part, well, the good thing for me is that for the team is that the alliance with Honda has changed, well, not changed, but it allowed us to have additional testing. So, we've kind of been picked as the extra car for those team tests because I think Chevy's only allowed 2 and Honda's only allowed 2.
Right.
So, but that's 6 tests up until Christmas, just
Right.
in that, and the GT's another 4, I think, up until Christmas too. But
Which I assume makes it hard for you guys to jump overseas for families in various
yeah,
continents.
November's actually kind of blocked out, which is kind of nice. But I typically go home in November or December back to New Zealand. We go back to England where my wife's from, or her family is, at least probably 5 or 6 times a year. But it's a lot easier going there than New Zealand. New Zealand's a bit of a nightmare, and then once you get down there, because you haven't been there for a year, the amount the long lists of crap you need to get done
Right.
is more than you want to do. So I kind of sometimes selfishly avoid it, but I go down in February actually in New Zealand for the Leadfoot Festival, which is pretty good. It's kind of like
what the hell is that?
It's like a mini Goodwood.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
For New Zealand's only.
So yeah, Rod Millen
Okay.
has started that. He's bought this massive, I guess, piece of land,
Yeah.
and they race. You race up the driveway, so it's
cool.
it's a lot of fun. But it's in a little beach town, so it's actually quite. I think it could really only. I think they have about 15,000 people per day, but
Yeah.
that's about its capacity.
Yeah.
It can't facilitate anymore. So yeah, so that if you should try and get down to that. It's a cool event.
Well,
It's in Hahe. New
once our
Zealand.
sponsorship kicks in.
Yeah,
because
there you
as
go,
can
man.
I mean, we're
You should take that car down. I think if you get a picture of that MDX, they'll invite you
Now,
down.
if we could get a jet and wrap it like that,
We're in.
yeah,
We're
we
in.
will
I
not
mean,
be allowed into anyone's airspace. Like, no way.
but we want to do that where we do like a week in Australia, or a week in
Yeah.
New Zealand,
Yeah.
or UK,
Yeah.
or wherever. But
Yeah. They need an IndyCar race down there.
Yeah, that'd be killer.
Yeah.
My grandfather was in the Navy and
Yep.
traveled all over the world, and he ended up eventually working in the Pentagon. I don't know if you knew that.
I
or
didn't
not,
know
But
that.
anyways,
That's cool. Wow.
the one place he told me I have to visit at some point in my life, he's like, if you go anywhere, go to New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously like the Lord of the Rings movies come
Yep.
out, and it's like
Yep.
the landscape's amazing.
Yeah.
What's the next closest place to New Zealand that you can think of in your travels?
It's tough. It's so.
Cleveland.
Cleveland. Where'd you like?
It's Cleveland, right?
Cleveland. Yeah. Indianapolis too, maybe. It's. It's so rugged and mountainous. You have the extremes. You have these giant mountains coming out of the ocean. Like it's just. It's kind of weird. Like I obviously grew up there, and I left. I think New Zealand when I was 16, moved to Australia, raced 2 years, and then moved to America, and been here ever since. But at that point of my life, I didn't realize kind of what
you had.
what you have.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of bizarre. And then every year I come back, I'm like, man, this place is just stunning. The people, there's only 4 million people. It's still a pretty big island, though, or 2 islands,
Right.
3 if you count the third one. But it's just it's something you really have to see. You need a little bit of time, probably 2 weeks at the
Right.
minimum. The South Island is really beautiful. Queenstown, Milford Sound. It's I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but it's kind of I don't know. You just don't really see it. I haven't seen it anywhere else.
Right.
Well, that's the part that actually kind of blows my mind about New Zealand. There's like 100 people that live there, and yet we've got.
We got like 15 million sheep though.
I've heard that.
We have lots of sheep.
But like you're from there. Obviously, Bruce McLaren comes from there. Brendan Hartley, the Millens. I mean, what is about New Zealand for such a relatively small population that has produced so many drivers?
Well, especially if you look at 60s, 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
you Bruce McLaren, Chris Amon, Denny
Yeah.
Holm, and the list actually is pretty long. I don't know. I think it's the passion for motor racing has always been there. From and I guess the pioneers like Bruce and a few before or after him. But also I think in general, just
Are there no cops?
it's bad there, man. So
Really?
you get I think through the holiday period, it's only you're on the motorway. It's only 100 kilometers. You're only
Okay.
allowed to go 100 kilometers, and during the holidays they only allow you to go 3 kilometers over.
Oh,
so
no
if you go
kidding.
3 kilometers over, you get and I think by the time you get pulled over 2 or 3 times, you get sat out for a while.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow! and it's like a hardcore, like they're waiting for you kind of thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
like it,
okay.
and they have speed cameras everywhere. They have
Yeah.
those set up those cars with cameras in the back, and
Yeah.
it's a nightmare driving down there. The roads are really cool. Like
Sure.
they're very windy, quite slippery. Unfortunately, lots of road accidents and
Sure.
deaths down there, and I think that's part and parcel of why they've tried to.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad actually, when I was racing go-karts, he owned a rental car business. It was called Omega Rentals, and I just remember seeing cars coming back from
Right.
head-ons because
Right.
they're all just I don't know, it's 2-lane, going back and forth. There's
Sure.
no divider, and just the head-on accidents. Especially actually with Americans a lot
I
of
was
the time
saying
because
Tourists, right?
the
Yeah,
the
I do.
opposite side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. I don't know. So going back to that, the rich history and the heritage and the passion for motor racing, but I also think it's kind of like the good old Kiwi ingenuity where they love to, build their own cars, race their own cars, and we saw that with Bruce and Denny especially too. So that passion's just always been there. It's something I grew up. My dad, was kind of in racing on club levels. He raced, rally. He did the Benson Hedges series that used to be down there for road courses and stuff, and then dirt track, and so that was kind of my memories growing up. They owned a speedway in Townsville, Australia. My parents and mum and dad actually raced a little bit.
Cool.
Remember watching them. I kind of started out on motorbikes, but for me, the memories of living and owning, or my parents owning a dirt track was, the Sundays after the Saturday night event and going under the stands and trying to find all the money that was falling out of people's pockets. So, but it's an interesting place for, I get what you're saying, and there's still a big push of kids coming through. And I think the other thing too maybe is the being the Southern Hemisphere, there's always been kind of like a winter series.
Sure.
Yeah.
As such, so when all the Europeans, even when I was racing and going through junior categories, you had all the best, European talent coming down during their off season, and I think that really helped push through a lot of the kids too. Yeah.
I've always had a theory, like in the U.S., we're so saturated with sports that there's a million different directions if you're a kid that you can go towards, whereas a place like Brazil, where maybe they only focus on one or two things, or maybe it's the same thing over there.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like with our kids now, with two girls, like there's so many things to, sports that they kind of, put your feet into.
They'll never hear this. Is there a sport you're secretly like, please don't do this? Either be horsing, horses because they're too expensive, or karting because it's too dangerous, or baseball because you hate it,
Because it's boring.
Yeah.
Baseball is similar to cricket, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Except for cricket, I would say it's worse, and my brother hates me for saying it because he was on the New Zealand indoor team, but how, like with cricket, they have a 5-day match, and they can still draw. They still can't figure out who the winner is after 5 days. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like,
Right.
But baseball is just a social sport. Every time I've gone, I've hardly watched the game. I've spoken to everybody. I've had a few beers and some hot dogs.
Are you that dad?
What's that?
If there was a softball game, would you be that dad?
A little league
who's
dad?
like just like screaming at all the little girls.
Like,
no.
No.
Anyway, I would be looking at that guy and be like,
like, we got to get out of here.
They go for a bit. But no, I don't know. With my kids, with Poppy and Tilly, probably, I don't know. I'll probably try and avoid motor racing, to be honest.
I understand that. Is the danger of the expense, or you just know how hard it is to make it?
The current, format has changed so much, and how difficult it is, unless you have a ton of money or something, to push through that way. But it's interesting to see the dynamics, of even talking to TK about it, with what he'll do with his boys, to the extreme with Montoya, where he's really dove in deep and doing Europe for the summer with his son, and but he's doing really well. So I don't know. I guess the trials and tribulations, and I think with my career, I was very lucky and kind of stars aligned with how things happened, that it's modern day is almost impossible to achieve.
Well, actually, so we talked about that with Dario a little bit. When you were young, you didn't have the means to just move to America and buy an Indy Lights ride like some guys, or Atlantics at the time or something like that. You basically started racing in Australia and then over to Indy Lights on a future earnings deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
that's not a very common thing in the United States.
Yeah, people don't necessarily hear what.
Yeah, and I don't think Dario really described it. But could you basically explain to like an American racing fan that might not understand how that works? Because in Europeans, it's pretty common, or at least it used to be.
I think we were actually maybe one of the first to kind of put it through its, put it through its paces. We my parents, they did an amazing job of, and I think the biggest thing too, what a lot of people have got to understand too, is motor racing is still at junior categories and go-karts, it's still a very big family sport. My parents loved the racing as much as I did, and in some points I think actually pushed me a bit too, which everybody needs occasionally. But coming into, Formula V was my first ever open wheel race car at the age of 13, and that we could kind of deal with. Formula Ford Class 2, which was the older category of the two at that point. that we could kind of handle. And then once we got to Formula 4 Class 1, that was the breaking point. You know, after that, you know, then I had to move to Australia, which was Formula Holden, which is basically a Formula 3000 just with a Holden engine in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so at that point, it was the time where, you know, Dad was constantly talking to, you know, fellow racing people and people in the industry and you know, sponsors, and trying to figure out, you know, we had some pretty good key partners along the way with Toshiba and then DriveCard, which was like a fuel company back in New Zealand, and that could fund some of it, but and then my dad and then Peter Johnston kind of thought, hey, you know, like we know enough influential business people in New Zealand that will, you know, we can maybe propose to them of, you know, a future, you know, payoff, basically an investment. You're investing in a person to try and make it with, you know, the possibility, you know, slim chance or slim possibility of it ever working, that you get your money back, plus, you know, whatever the percentage was. So yeah, we you know, PJ and Craig Harris, Kenny Smith and my dad, you know, they formulated a group of, I think it topped out at 13 people.
Wow.
In the end, that
Right. So there was no one guy like, I'm in, let's just do this. Like it was.
No,
it was
there was a
knocking on
couple
lot
that
of
could
doors.
have done that, I think,
Sure.
but they also enjoyed the group atmosphere. They enjoyed going to,
This
you
was
know,
like
that
this
group.
team Scott
Yeah,
Dixon
it
group.
was.
Yeah,
And you know, they loved being able to say, yeah, you know, we're here, we're helping a young Kiwi, you know, try and get to the world stage and you know, IndyCar or Formula 1 or whatever it was going to be. And so yeah, you know, it worked. You know, looking back at it now, but there was but there was some, you know, obviously some major struggles along the way. There was a couple of people that, you know, when it came to the buyout, you know, phase were definitely very tricky. But yeah, you know, they helped fund my living, you know, in Australia, and then when I moved to America,
Just day-to-day expense.
expense, which is very tough. And then, you know, we landed a deal for the second year in Formula Holden with Simon Harwich and the team that he ran. You know, back then we won the championship, but then also we got to another roadblock of, you know, what do we do next? And actually, we were looking at doing Formula 3. We were on plan to, you know, start testing in Europe, and Kenny Smith, who knows Vern Schuppen very well from back in the day. Called him up because he knew that he was, you know, still in racing in America, and thought that it could be a good possibility. And then it turned out that, you know, Vern was partners with Stefan Johansson in the Indy Lights team. So we flew kind of on the way actually to Europe. We flew to Sebring and did a 2-day test. We did the first day with Pac West because of Ziggy Harkis, fellow Kiwi that Kenny Smith knew as well. And so we had to pay. They raised the money to pay for these tests. I can't remember what the test cost. You know, back in those days, but it was, you know, 10 or 20 grand, a significant amount of money.
Absolutely,
and we, you know, we had a spectacular second day test with Stefan's team, and and then that kind of kicked off that. So we were able to. They then proposed that they would take on a managerial piece of my contract through the future of
So you're just giving pieces of yourself away.
There was not much left at that point. But it's you know, and you know, Stefan still manages me to this day. So it was kind of a funny tie how it all placed out. And then, you know, after the, you know, first year with Stefan, you know, Rookie of the Year, I think, or I don't even remember how that played out, but we won a race in Indy Lights, and then we actually went back to, you know, Pac West, and that was the first time I ever got paid, which I think for Indy Lights drivers was awesome. And I got Tony Renner to thank for that. Tony Renner was my teammate in 2000, and he had somehow concocted up this formula of Indy Lights drivers getting paid. With Bruce McCaw, and so that's when they started to see, you know, it was a good amount, you know, for an Indy Lights driver. But that kind of, you know, worked out well. We won the championship, and then so I guess closing the story of the investors group, you know, then we started the payment back to them starting in 2003 over basically, I think it was about a 3-year period.
So if we were talking to the 13-year-old Carter, that's listening to this going, oh, I'll just do a future earnings deal.
Yeah.
It's easy, right?
Yeah.
Well, so beyond needing the network to me is the hardest part. But like, I mean, how old were you when you first started putting this kind of thing together? I mean, I assume your dad's very involved and you have no clue how this works.
I didn't at that
Right.
point. I was like, oh, so when we go to the next race?
Yeah,
what are we
well,
racing
exactly.
next? What are we doing next year? And Dad was like, I don't know what we're doing next year because
Right.
we have no money. And then a car would turn up and we're like, shit, let's
here we
go racing.
Well, because where I'm going with this is it's not a sensible business decision. No one's investing in this like Scott Dixon future earnings deal because they know they're going to get a guaranteed return. I mean, not even close. So, like, where I'm going with this is, to me, like, they had to really like you and know that, like, I may never get this money back, but I'm helping this kid out.
Yeah.
Which and it happens actually. The same group of people have been involved with, in I too, Brendan Hartley, Richie Stanaway,
Okay.
Earl Bamba,
that guy.
So it
All of these guys have done nothing.
Never heard of him.
so it is continuing on.
Yeah.
Even Hayden Patton in the World Rally. So it's been. I think for them, going back to the start, it was just a fun social thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a lot of money. It was still probably somewhat significant to them. Some of the guys, it was not a lot of money at all.
Right.
If you're talking
Not a
Colin
relative
Giltrap,
scheme.
he's
It's like one of the wealthiest guys in New Zealand.
yeah. And
It's a lot of sheep.
but he has it is a lot of shit, but he has a lot of passion for racing, but he just loves, I saw Colin was at Le Mans this year, and he just, he loves talking about the old days. He loves just being in the environment and, sitting down with Chip and then obviously hanging with Brendan with, the Porsche team. It's just, for them it was about being accepted into not accepted, but being in the environment and knowing key people that were involved.
Yeah.
And, even some of the investors he was with, at Le Mans this year. So you definitely need, the key people, the right people. I think with how we did ours, that also paid dividends for some of the others too, like Brendan and Earl, and so that's helped them as well. So it's kind of there, and if these guys kind of latch onto someone or see it, they enjoy it. Justin Wilson had a very similar
Right.
Yeah.
That was one of the first times I
situation.
really heard about that.
Yeah,
it was his
but
deal.
it was.
But he put out like on the public
Yeah, it was
stock
like a
exchange.
public
Yeah,
holder,
right?
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
big
they
difference,
went
but-
like next level on their one.
Yeah.
So it's finding the two or three key guys for us, which for me was PJ and Craig Harrison and then Colin Giltrap, and then it kind of, they're like to their mates, all right, I need some of your money. You're going to put it in.
Right.
This is what it's for. Don't ask any questions. Maybe you'll get some money back.
Sure. Yeah.
But we're going to go to some fun races, some fun events, and
it's gonna be
hopefully
an experience.
one day we can be like, we were a part of that at the start.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How often do you get recognized, like if you're just at the airport in Atlanta, like with your kids? Like is that a thing? And where I'm leading with this is, and now how's that compared to when you fly home to New Zealand?
Yeah.
Is it like the prodigal son has returned?
Yeah. It's occasional. I think America is so massive that unless and I think even when you look at like Olympians, at that period they get recognized, and then sort of several months after they kind of don't.
Yeah.
Indianapolis for sure, and Indy, kind of wherever you go, because it's everybody
That's
knows
what it is,
racing.
right?
That's
Yeah.
what it is. There are some situations where you run into people and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I can't remember where we were just recently, but it was. I was at an event in Kansas and I got stopped in the airport. But it was actually a group of people from Indiana that were like, "What are you doing here?" But yeah, then when you go home, it's just depending on the year that you have sometimes.
Oh, really?
But no, pretty much everywhere you go.
Really?
But it's
Oh,
4
that's
million
cool.
people. Like most
Sure,
people
sure.
think, everybody from New Zealand is related almost. You know what I mean? Like it's so small. They're like, hey, I was in California last week and I met this guy Steve. He's from New Zealand. Do you know him, Steve?
Right,
You know
yeah,
Steve?
you know
And
that.
I'm like, no, I don't know Steve. Like,
Can you get us Peter Jackson?
I probably could. Yeah, I know where he lives. Yeah, we're related, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we sat down with Dario, we had kind of like a running joke the previous season that Dario was involved with, and we were like, I wonder if he'll even know it. And he said, oh yeah, I was talking. You guys are having Dixon on, and we thought, oh,
Oh, we
Okay.
didn't know that at that point.
All right. We hope so. Did he then go back and give you a progress report of how it went? Have you spoken to him since?
You know, we saw him earlier in the day.
Yeah.
We went on a wine tour, which he kind of lamed out of it.
Yeah,
And,
which we were like,
I've got-
no,
you know, I'm gonna
should
do
have
this
gone.
thing
Should have been
tonight, blah blah
fully
blah. Which I
plastered.
was like, no, man, it'd be much better if you just
Yeah,
turn
yeah,
up
that's
the
what we
tanks
agree.
and you'll then maybe tell some real stories. But yeah, it's so we saw him actually. We kept going all the way through,
As you
obviously
should.
through
As you
dinner.
should.
And then we were actually in the hot tub as he came through, through the lodge or whatever.
Sure.
So where we were staying. So yeah, he had a blast.
Well, you
It was
showed
really
up,
cool.
so it couldn't have been too
Yeah,
terrible.
it couldn't
No,
have been.
no,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
But yeah, he said it was a lot of fun and really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and
he was great,
Yeah.
and obviously you guys are really good buds.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
So
yeah.
we spoke a lot about your apparent favorite quick meal on the go, Taco Bell.
Oh, Taco Bell, yeah.
Yeah. And so when
yeah.
we reached out about having you have lunch at Taco Bell, that was like a serious suggestion.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were like totally
yeah.
fine.
We'd
We're
have
like,
to
we
go
could-
back to the scene of the. Yeah.
We'd have to go to the one.
That's
But
exactly
it's,
what we thought too.
Yeah.
yeah.
But like that was the thing. It's like we don't know you well enough to be like, no, we're going there. That's
Yeah.
where it's gonna be. I was like,
No,
yeah,
it wouldn't bother me, man.
because I
Don't
mean, basically
bother
your
me.
email response is, no, Tegry's fine. It's like, yeah, we're doing Tegry. I'm not poking this bear. So.
No.
Listen,
Probably
you're
could've.
keeping me from my
Sorry.
kids. We're
Yeah.
not going to Taco
Yeah,
Bell. Yeah.
No, it is. That could be my last meal. Could be Taco
It
Bell.
almost was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point. It was. It was a free meal. At least, well, we had no wallets left. So.
Right. So last night we met up with Dr. Jerry Punch. He doesn't know us from Adam.
Yeah.
And randomly he just said your name. He's like, oh, yeah, like Scott Dixon, that guy. That's a great guy to talk to. And we're like, yeah,
Well,
we
funny
are.
enough.
Did
Yeah.
you talk? Did you
Yeah.
know what we're doing? And his thing was like the guy's so cool that even if he's got a gun in his face, he could still order a burrito or
Yeah.
chalupa or something. We're like, yeah.
A gordita crunch, man. That's what you got to get.
Right. And we were told now beans instead of beef because you don't eat a lot of red meat
Yeah,
anymore. That was
no
a
red
Dario
meat.
thing you
Yep.
slipped in there
Yeah.
on us.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's a. I think we were trying to phase out all meat, but we're still stuck on the occasional chicken and
Well,
fish.
Is
but-
that a you thing or an Emma thing?
Emma started it. She's like a massive animal lover, so I think that's kind of where it went down that road. But I think with there's a ton of documentaries and movies,
Sure,
and,
sure.
stuff that I think kind of whenever you watch one of those, and I remember we watched one on a plane traveling somewhere, and
That's always the worst,
She's
especially
like,
because
"We're
like
doing
if you
it."
know what's coming.
yeah. It is hard, man. Like it's but no, the transition from I kind of miss certain things like Fogo de Chao. Which is
okay.
probably the complete opposite of trying to
Oh,
do
yeah.
what we're doing.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it's in which we do Fogo like every night after the 500.
Okay, makes sense.
So I know when that comes up next year, I'm gonna be like, man, I really want some of that
Yeah,
Fogo de
yeah.
Chao. But it's
Right.
but yeah, it's been pretty easy, man. It's yeah, I don't know.
So
Like-
kind of going down that same road of like your family, like so your wife Emma, she was a former like Olympic level runner, like competed in.
Yeah, so she did. She was a she ran for Great Britain
Right.
in 800 meters. She did Commonwealth Games,
Commonwealth,
two
that's right.
Commonwealths. She was meant to do Sydney, but had glandular fever, so she missed Sydney Olympics.
Right.
But yeah, runner for in 800 meters.
Right.
So yeah, she did 8 and 15.
And so the word on Emma is that she's more of an antagonist on things than you are. And she's kind of the one that like gives you a hard time. And I remember there was like the really famous Instagram or whatever post of you asleep and she put a bunch of underwear on. and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And you're known, at least from my side of racing, as being like, obviously the Iceman, but just
Yeah.
like, there's no like, oh, you heard about Dixon, right? He punched that guy. Like, there's not that story
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then, so my kind of gauge on the situation is that I have a feeling you're the one that's like, no, please don't post that. Like if someone like does something shitty in a race and she's like, I gotta say something. You're the one like, let's.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Emma likes to call it passionate.
Yeah.
I'm just very passionate, and she is. She's a very passionate person.
Right.
She is very fiery. She's very competitive. I think two of the most competitive people I know are probably Chip and her.
Right.
Interesting.
And so if I have a bad day, man, like when I'm walking
got it
back to the
twice.
bus, I'm like, oh man, like this is, I can't wait to see what she comes up with. And
Yeah.
and she'd be like, oh, I don't think you really gave it your all today. And I'd be like, well, I pretty much did. Like I'm always, trying to, dig deeper and get after it. But I love it. It's as far as the posting things go with Emma, that's. I love seeing people speak their mind.
Yeah,
I am probably not the person that would do that, but I like seeing people that aren't always PC. They speak their mind. If they see something that's wrong, instead of being like, oh, they probably wouldn't like me to post that, I'm going to post it anyway. And she's had some ups and downs with, I think, a little bit of backlash on that. But, I give her credit. And some other fellow drivers have been like, hey, you should probably tell her not to post things like that. And I'm like, why? Look at it. It's real. It's true. It's correct.
Yeah.
Do
you say,
and
like,
it's
have
her
you
Twitter.
met her? She's going to kill me.
Yeah, you go tell her that.
That's the voice of fear.
Yeah, so it's definitely it's a fun environment to be in. But yeah, I love obviously love Emma to bits, and I love her passion for sport. But definitely her competitive side is unbelievable, and I can see why she was so good at running.
What she had to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're not. I mean, we don't know you, but I mean, you're not known for being the most outgoing guy. How did that even happen?
Publicly. We should say publicly.
Yeah, publicly. we don't know behind the scenes.
Friends of yours that we've chatted with, they're like, oh, he's hilarious.
Yeah,
He's really funny. We're like,
well,
okay, well.
I don't know. It's I guess.
Like, do you have game?
I
mean, clearly
this
you do.
is a long time ago,
Yeah.
It was we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary coming up. Winning anniversary coming up in February. But it's I think it was by chance. I think it was through a period of a couple of times I was actually in England, and it was through when I was doing the Williams test. And then another time I was doing some simulator work, I think. And I was in London, and I called a friend. I was like, hey, is anybody in town? He's like, I'm out of town. He's like, but I'll ask around. I've got a few friends that will be there. So Emma was out with a friend, Sarah, and Stefan was actually in town. So there was a group of us that went to dinner, and we went to dinner in London at Nobu, I think, even go back then, and we just started chatting. We had some similarities, and I've always been an avid runner, and it interests me to talk to her about her running background, and I think for her too, it was a bit of it was a very rough time for her because her father had just passed, which was her coach, and so I was very intrigued. But long story short, it kind of was a dinner where we had quite a few drinks, and then we went out later again and had way too many tequila shots, and it kind of just sparked off an interest between the both of us, and I think I saw her maybe a day later, and then I had to leave for a test somewhere, and but then we just couldn't stop talking.
So this is like transcontinental, this whole thing.
Yeah, so then we started meeting.
Yeah,
we started meeting each other in New York every 2 weeks.
That's cool. Wow.
And then I would go.
But she's coming out too, so she's clearly in.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when she signed up for the first trip, I knew it was
like,
it was
okay,
looking
this is
pretty
real.
good. So and then we did long distance for about 6 months, and then I was like, hey, do you want to come to Indy? And then she came, and then decided that at her point in her career in life, because she also has a degree in fine arts, so she's very articulate and very amazing drawer, which she's kind of given up for a small period, but she needs to get back into it. But she also was doing TV for Sky Sport and football. Or soccer, which they call it in America.
We know,
so,
we understand.
Yeah, so mostly for
we're men of the world.
Yeah, for Southampton, that football team there. So, and then I guess basically just after 6 months, she moved to Indy, which was definitely a shocking, not a shocking. Yeah, it was a tough.
London,
yes,
Indy,
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So it was, and especially in 2006, I feel like Indy, every 5 years, kind of like marches forward in pace and the size of it, and restaurants and just diversity in general. So it's a lot easier for her now than what it was back then.
Yeah.
But
How much closet space did you lose?
most of it.
Yeah, that's the thing they don't tell you.
Kind of like a slither over there. That's
it's not 50-50.
Yeah, but I'm fine with that.
All right, fair enough.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so it's clearly not the beginning of your career.
Mm-hmm.
You're, and obviously doing great. We just finished third.
It's been going okay.
You could probably hang on to it for a little while.
I hope.
But clearly you're at the point where, retirement's down the street, not too far. Do you stay in Indy when that day comes, or do you move somewhere? You move home? Do you stay in the country? Yeah,
I think it all depends. I think it depends a lot on what comes up next.
Sure.
I would plan at least right now another 4 to 5 years, doing what I'm doing.
Cool.
Or till, I feel like I'm not competitive. I think, with Tony and Elio and even Montoya, the longevity is kind of been a little more apparent, I think, in IndyCar than what it typically has been. Because they turned 42 or 43 this year, and I'm just turned 37.
Yeah.
So it's I hope I can race competitively for as long as they have. So that's the plan to start with, and then I don't know, schooling I think will be interesting for the kids. I think Emma wants to see them go to college in England. Plus, it's a lot cheaper in England. So that's a good little bonus.
Yeah.
Smart.
But I don't know. It's I have the unfortunate part for Emma and myself is that she's from England, or she's actually Welsh, but her family's in England and I'm from New Zealand. You can't really get to further away places. America kind of worked because it was in the middle.
Right.
But it's going to be a tough decision. I love England. I love the people, the banter. It's the history. It's such an interesting place, but the weather completely sucks.
Right.
There's traffic everywhere. There's lines everywhere. You have to line up to go to the bank. You have to line up to get a sandwich. You have to line up to get gas. It's just when you get there, you're so frustrated. But I think if you're living there, you probably wouldn't have to worry about too many of those things. But I don't know. I think we have obviously options. We're very, very lucky and very fortunate with how we can sort of bounce around, and we have lots of friends in different places, which is nice to have. So, but America has a lot to offer too, though. I love the upper west, Oregon.
Let's say if the New Zealand kind of environment, something like the Northwest or central parts of California.
Exactly. So California, Oregon, Colorado. So I can see us always having a foothold in America, whether it's Indianapolis, maybe I don't know. A lot of great people here. It's a great city to live in. For us right now, it's the perfect place. We're always constantly traveling. So it's nice to have somewhat of not a extremely busy city where you're chasing traffic. It's fantastic for the kids. They go to the international school here in Indianapolis, so they're in French immersion. So they're going to pick up 2 or 3 languages by the time they leave high school. So it has everything we need, and plus we have a ton of friends here. In the motor racing community, there's so many expats. You have Kiwis, Australians, British. It's the perfect mix for us right now, and I don't know. We'll see.
You've won everything there is to win in the IndyCar. I mean, your sort of place in the history books of IndyCar is very, very well established. Do you ever look at your girls and Emma and have an accident like you did at Indy and go, what the f*** am I doing?
I got asked a lot after that accident, but the first thing for me, and like Emma, when Emma even came into the medical, the hospital at the track, and I was pissed off, man, because I was like, the car was getting better. We knew we started the race extremely trimmed.
With the idea that it rubbers in as it goes on.
Exactly, and we were going to be better later, later in the race. And the second stint we started coming back through, but I was more pissed off that I was out of the race, and especially so early. I'm like, what the f***,
Well, you spend all month to get to this point.
And the car was fast. The team had worked extremely hard, and Emma's, she was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm just like, I'm pissed off. I want to be back out there. So, the passion for racing and the competitive side is never, in a situation like that, is never something that's faltered or I've never, been in a different direction after something like that. But I think sometimes when you cause the accident yourself or you lose control of a car, plays, at least for me, plays in my mind more than a chance and a circumstance of man, I had nowhere to go. I tried to go one way and it wasn't the right way. But it's when you look at the replays, you obviously understand the severity of it, but going into any race, it's something I've known since I was, 7. I first started go-karting. I remember watching a kid go in a go-kart for the first time, going down a back straight, totally froze, and drove, through the grass and straight into a trailer. And luckily hit the tire because it would have otherwise taken his head off. And, at that point I was like, man, this... look what can happen
at this level.
And my dad, he was like, oh, it's racing, blah, 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 whatever. But my mum, even at that point too. So it's something that I've always known is the consequence. But this is what I love, and even when I've lost good friends, like Tony Renner or Dan Weldon or Justin Wilson, that was their passion.
Yeah.
To give up shorter than what you thought you were going to do, or to even not get to the next race would have hurt them more than the unknown of something that's going to happen anyway, or could happen. But we're very lucky too to live in the modern era where safety is paramount, and it's a lot better than what it used to be.
Tony Brennan is actually somebody I wouldn't mind talking about for a couple minutes. We had Pat Long on 2 years ago, and he was close with Tony. We didn't really get into any of those stories, but like you guys were teammates in Indy Lights. It sounds like he did a lot for your career. How do you think his career would have flourished had things not gone the way they did in testing?
Yeah, I was so bummed. Obviously, Tony was a good friend, and I think it's just it's with teammates. It's kind of weird. Like you kind of think somebody, and a good example of that is with Tony. I was like, Tony, blah blah blah. I had my kind of views of him, and then when you become teammates and you spend a lot more time with him, you're like, holy, I didn't know that about him.
Right. Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. Well, just with his dad passing and who he is, and what he's done for other people, and and how sensitive he is. Like that. Sure. That for me, and I'm talking about Kanan here. Sorry on this part. Like he's a very sensitive guy, which when you see Tony on TV, most people think, he's like the Hulk and he's rough and this. He's not like that at all. He puts on this persona that he is, and he's probably going to kill me for saying it. But he's very spiritual. He's quite sensitive. But he's similar too as Emma, where he's very passionate and can erupt. I've seen eruptions in the engineering room. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, what is
I've
that?
Never seen this guy.
I had to walk out because I'm like,
okay.
But then 5 minutes later, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get that bad.
So you're just like on your phone, like, there's a call.
Yeah, I got to leave because I'm not that way at all, Sure. So it's but yeah, going back to Tony Renner. He had a lot of talent, but as a person, that's where I was kind of going. He was just such a great guy. Like, just hanging out with his friends, and we trained a lot together. We were both with Pitford Training, at that period. So we cycled together a lot. We worked out a lot. Obviously got to know his then fiance. Debbie, but it's kind of once you get into the family and meeting his sisters and his parents, and but talent-wise, he was very thorough. He was he had a different style to me, and that there was a lot more finesse, kind of a little bit more like Dario, to be honest, in some ways of how he approached the weekend, and especially back then, I was kind of just turn up and drive the hell out of whatever it was, where he went through a much more in-depth process, and debriefs were a lot more intriguing than mine.
Car sucked, make it better.
More front wing. So it was, I don't know, like for me, it was the break that Tony always dreamt of. And it was just such a weird sensation because I'd seen him, literally 2 days before, and how happy he was, and it kind of worked out a bit strange because I think I was intentionally meant to do the test to start with, and then we had pre-media stuff for the banquet, and had to fly out that day to Florida, and that's when I first got the call from Chip, was when I landed in Orlando, and he's like, oh man, you need to come back to Indy, you need to get back on the plane. I was like, what's going on? He's like, oh, Tony had an accident, it was, it's pretty bad. So then, got back on the plane and flew straight back, and I think even at that point, Chip knew that
how bad it was.
Yeah, it was fatal, and
we don't need to get details, but it sounds like.
Yeah, so I think for me it was just, I was like, man, like it was such a happy moment for him, his family. He was getting married 2 weeks later. It was just like that I think for me the first thing that kicks into gear is like you think about the family and friends. That's all. I didn't. The racing part was whatever it was, but I felt extremely sad for him. And
is that the first time you'd been that close to somebody that had an accident like that?
Probably, yeah. No, it was. Yeah, it was for sure. So yeah, I don't know. I just. God, I can't believe it's been 15 years now.
Yeah,
So it's
2002.
it's been a long time. Since that day. But yeah, miss him dearly. Super guy, super friendly, and as I'm sure Pat Long knew Tony better than I did. But yeah, I feel like I definitely missed out too on working with him and add on in a bigger category and more in depth.
Sure.
So yeah.
So I didn't know this. Ryan Lewis is a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
His one-liner, which I'm totally throwing him under the bus, was he said, "The wealthier you get, the less ginger you become."
Wow.
I mean, his name was Brian.
Brian Lewis. Said that.
Yeah. Brian Lewis. Yeah. No, that does not surprise me at all that he came up with that. He's quite a witty Brit. I don't know. He's actually quite a lot of fun to follow on Twitter, that guy.
Yeah.
But no, Ryan's been a friend for a long time. But no, I don't know. Is he trying to say that I dye my hair or something? I don't know what he's going on about here.
If it makes you angry, yes.
Yeah. Whatever it's going to take.
I've never dyed my hair, so if that's where it's going. But I feel like that's why gingers I think generally don't go as grey. So that's why I have the occasional grey hair, but nothing like Dario's obviously starting to let himself go.
You back it up.
How
That's a beautiful man out there with amazing hair.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's just going to get better looking.
That's why when people ever ask me, what do you think of what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Dario? And I'm like, man, he's got beautiful hair. And he gets so angry with it. He's like, come on, man, you couldn't come up with anything more than that. I'm like, dude, your hair is stunning.
Legend has it that in New Zealand you were 13 when you were allowed to race in cars, which they had to give you like special dispensation, first time ever been done, and then you promptly rolled a Nissan Sentra.
I did.
Yeah.
With a cushion.
With a pillow wrapped around.
That started, it was a Pukekohe, and we had to...
I'm sorry, what?
Pukekohe is the racetrack.
The
racetrack. Yeah. It's the main racetrack in Auckland, I guess, district.
Is it like an Aborigines name? What is that?
Well, it's all Maori names, right?
Okay.
So it's
right. Yeah,
like
we know what that is.
I lived in the town I lived in was Manurewa, and then the track is Pukekohe.
Okay.
But yeah, there's towns Papatoetoe. It's Wanaka.
He's making all this stuff up now. He's like these
Whangarei, but then when it's a WH, it's meant to be F. So then Whangarei is meant to be Whangarei. It's a totally different.
I think you're making all this up.
Yeah, it's the native language.
He's like, no, it's Smithtown over next to Danville.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
The native language of New Zealand. So it started. I had to go for the Auckland Car Club. Had to go and do a where they came and just basically watched, how I got around the track.
Yeah,
and it was in I had to do it in a road car. It was in a Suzuki Swift.
Nice.
Yes.
And you own that now, right? You still own that Suzuki Swift?
No, I don't. I think it was actually one of Dad's rental cars.
That's awesome.
It's destroyed.
Slightly used, and or lightly used, but it's
still paying it off.
I still had to have someone in the passenger seat, and the funny. Where I nearly failed was that I came, so there's a big long front straight, and then it's a very fast right-hander, and old school tracks there's like no runoff, very little. So I go around, and then I see a family of ducks, man, and so I swerve to miss the ducks.
Sure.
And spin out, and luckily I go down this runoff road, this very small runoff road, and somehow don't hit a thing.
Yeah.
But the guy that was trying to sign me off was like, you could tell he'd just his pants. He was like, what the hell was that? So I nearly failed that, but yeah, that's where it all started. And then so you had to. There was a I can't. It said like in the handbook or the rule book of New Zealand motor racing that you could get special dispensation outside of having a road car license, and that's kind of what we fell into. So I had to sit all the typical tests, and then had to have a ride along for his very adventurous ride with missing some ducks, and
guys like that kid's never gonna make it.
And then so my first then started in Formula V, and the Formula V Championship started off rough too. Had a pretty big crash in the same corner actually at the first race.
Ducks again.
The second race. With one of the main championship contenders, and that's when started to get flack, in the media about, should this, young kid be running out there, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then pretty much 6 months later, do an endurance race, my first ever endurance race, I guess, in a Nissan Sentra, which the racing was crazy.
I was going to put this out there. We both drive MDXs.
Yeah.
We both raced for Acura.
Yeah.
First endurance race, the Continental Tire Series, Nissan Sentra.
Was it really?
Yeah.
There you go, man.
I didn't roll it.
But yeah, that was so we and you can imagine 30 something of these Nissan Sentras.
Yeah.
The racing was complete.
Oh, so it's all Nissan. It's like a spec
Completely
category. It's
idiotic.
like Miatas.
Yeah, it was a spec.
MX-5, yeah.
Spec, so everybody's within
That's awesome.
half a tenth,
Yeah.
and going from 20th to try and win in the first corner.
Right.
And so I got spun by this guy, and then barrel rolled this Nissan Sentra. But to quicken up the driver change, it was we couldn't figure out a seat position.
Are you still?
Because I was only 13.
13 still.
I was 13,
Wow. Okay, so
and
you're wee.
and so we decided that a cushion would be
It's like a straight up pillow.
Yeah.
straight up pillow
Yeah.
would be the fix, and to do it quicker again, that this thing would be taped to me.
Yeah.
So as it happens, the car finishes rolling and it's upside down. I'm bawling my eyes out, which was even worse. I'm like, crying, and so eventually get out of the car, and then the front page of all New Zealand papers the next day was like me crawling out of this car with this giant pink floral cushion taped to my butt, and then basically started how does his mother allow him to do this, and blah 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 blah. But it's so that was it, man. Crawling out of a wrecked Nissan Sentra, crying with a floral cushion tied to my butt. I think you can find it on YouTube. It's probably there somewhere.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, type in Scott Dixon pillow. It's
pillow.
the first thing that comes up.
Oh, it's really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's adorable.
The quality's probably not too good. That was a little while ago. But it's, yeah.
And the video's all upside down, too.
Yeah. So then we had to figure out how to pay for the car that we didn't own, which was interesting too. But I think we ended up buying it and trying to fix it. And, whatever. I don't think I raced it again.
Right. The Instagram thing is, so I follow you on Instagram, and I hardly ever look at what other people like on the app. If you kind of scroll through,
I know where you're going on this.
The face says this is real.
Okay, this is just something I like. It wasn't even like, because we'll research our guests just to have like talking points. But I'm laying in bed or something, and I'm just on a plane, and I'm like, looking at what other people have liked. And if you follow Scott Dixon, he likes some random things, and I'm like, look, because it'll show you the little previews if you're not on Instagram. It'll show you the little previews of what these people liked, and you can click on it and it brings it up. So you don't follow like in a large amount of people. You follow like 400 or 500 people, something like that.
The country, New Zealand, basically.
Every time I look at one of these random photos that you had liked, maybe 2 other people had liked them, and it's just a random
and they're
things.
Not it's not like it's not like it's a car or like a photo of somebody's family. It's just this like fan in front of a track.
Maybe not even a fan. It might
yeah.
just be like a person like at Roscoe's or whatever. and I was like, is that a thing?
Yeah.
It's it's not me.
You're not Scott Dixon 9 on Instagram?
No, I am. Yeah, but it's not it's not me doing it.
Okay, so is it like one of your little ones?
No. So it's and I don't think it shouldn't be doing it anymore, but it's a it's like
a bot.
Yeah.
Oh, you have like a program, so it's just designed to like gain you Instagram
So
followers.
we started working with a company in New Zealand. It's a bot that starts to try to
It's way better.
That bot is hilarious.
Yeah, so it's so you target followers of other accounts, and I haven't had the rundown yet of actually if it works or if it does not.
Okay. Well, it works for us. Just keep it going. It's worth
so because
penny.
I had the same thing from my wife the other night. She's sitting in bed, and she'd obviously just come across this page. She's like, "You like this girl's post?" I'm like, "What girl?" She's like, "She looks like a stripper. Who is this girl?" I'm like,
See, that I would have understood.
I don't know.
I
can't do that.
But that would have made more sense than like just some random like 90-year-old lady with their dog on a porch. I'm like, what? And only 2 other people liked it.
Yeah, so it's confessions on that one. That's
okay. That algorithm needs to never
it's trying to. I guess ultimately,
please don't change it.
It's so
meant
awesome.
to. No, I think it should have. It should have stopped by now. I don't know. I'll look into it.
Yeah, so good.
That's not me liking. At least that's what I told my wife too. So.
Secret safe.
Yeah.
Well,
so now you can actually like anything you want, because if you
we'll just blame a
on
bot.
that seat, you can blame whatever.
Yeah.
Wasn't me, babe.
It's this New Zealand bot.
Yeah.
Scott Dixon liked that photo. I'm allowed to.
So the other insight I just got is you are absolutely the guy that'll get in trouble. You'll get the text like, "Why does your Facebook not say we're in a relationship?"
Oh.
So like, are you? So is that the thing? Like, are you getting scouted every time you look? You do anything online?
Nah, like, you mean from my wife?
Yeah.
Or,
Is Emma like, okay, why are you friends?
No, I'm not a jealous person at all. You know,
Sure.
I think she's probably got a an inkling of it, but
passionate.
no, like I think she's pretty active on social media, so she, she will go.
What was it say? 52 seconds ago, you liked.
What are you doing, Dixon?
Yeah, didn't you see me doing that?
Yeah. So like, here's a lovely, just a lovely forest.
Now I could see
somewhere.
myself liking that.
Right.
It was me and 7 other people that did that,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
And,
IndyCar
I think
star
I liked
and,
the
like,
trail that was.
Yeah. 52 seconds ago, you're pretty
and,
good.
And
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
and this person is obviously German, or I don't even know. It's not in English.
Yeah, right.
C translation. I'm not even sure what that
Yep,
would be. But yes, that was me.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I'm gonna screen grab this one, and we're gonna put this on the website like later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, just some random person in a hoodie.
Now I liked the color. It's orange.
It's a great color.
She is
Great
a
color.
ginger supporter right there. That's why.
Yeah.
And she is also not speaking English.
So do you feel like you share a stronger bond with New Zealanders or with gingers?
Gingers, it's a dying race, man. Like, it's...
My mom will be very upset to hear that.
I'm just trying to procreate and keep it going. But no, I think we've all had, pretty rough backgrounds in growing up, and, I think that's, maybe part and parcel why I have some thick skin, maybe. But no, it's a thing.
That's not a real question. I'm just
No,
throwing it out there.
It's the hard-hitting journalism like
Yeah,
that
this
that
is
keeps us on the air.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, I mean, you've now won 4 championships,
Yes.
and you almost had a 5th. Do you think back to that race in 07, or is it just like you were like 2 laps away from having it?
Totally got Gunzelman, man. It was the situation where the fuel was just, not meant to be. It was just that last corner,
Just
last
Gunzelman.
lap of the championship, and we were in the lead over the championship competitor, which was that guy with beautiful hair,
Yeah.
Dario Franchitti.
Beautiful man.
Doesn't use product.
Yeah, totally
All
got
natural.
hosed. I told him he didn't win that championship.
Yeah.
He just got lucky.
So you mentioned Blair earlier, who's your crew chief now.
Yeah.
You guys were formerly roommates and are like really close mates. Is that right?
Yeah, so when I moved, so we didn't actually. He's from New Zealand. We didn't know each other.
Strangely.
Yeah.
Strangely
Yeah,
enough,
strangely.
yeah.
And his brother Anton.
Okay.
So they lived here. They actually both worked at Stephanie Hansen's Indy Lights team, and the first person to pick me up at the airport here in Indianapolis was Blair,
Okay.
and so I stayed with them. I later went on to getting an apartment at the Riley Towers downtown, but still just never actually stayed. I think I stayed there 7 nights in the whole year, and lived with Blair and Anton.
Right.
So yeah, that's. I remember he picked me up. He was in a Jeep Cherokee, and we drove to some like Walmart lot or something, and it was snowing. It was the first time I'd really seen snow, even,
Oh, yeah.
which is quite bizarre coming from New Zealand.
was
I'd
gonna
seen
say.
a little bit driving occasionally. And we started doing donuts in the parking lot of this like
As you
Walmart.
do.
So it was that was my welcoming to Indianapolis.
To life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty sweet.
Welcome to
It
the
was pretty
Midwest.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
What was your first Walmart experience like? The first time you walked in and realized what this was?
Well, is there a New Zealand version of that,
Yeah.
or like had you seen anything like that in
No.
Australia?
See, New Zealand doesn't really have. They're starting to now. Like you have, I think the first one in New Zealand was called the Warehouse. Actually, the Warehouse is still going. But it was kind of that was much later than.
Well, the warehouse here was a place that used to sell like DVDs and CDs.
Yeah.
So, like that's just making its way to New Zealand
Yeah,
now.
yeah. There you go.
The
See,
internet's
it's
gonna
the
blow their
80s, man.
minds.
That's
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
cool
So-
thing is, if you really were fond of the 80s, you just go back to New Zealand
And
and
you're good.
And you walk
New
right
Zealand
back into
online
it.
down there.
Yeah, yeah.
NZOL. Yeah.
First Walmart experience. I think it was probably fairly late. I think it was when I first got Emma and I first got our motorhome, and I pulled up into Walmart. I think it was the one by Homestead Racetrack.
And South
had to,
Florida Walmart.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was awesome, but it was
That'll wake you up.
it was like. Man, it was probably 2 in the morning, and that damn place was
right
South Florida
Yeah.
Walmart, 2 a.m.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So all I remember was
Probably
being
a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I was so angry because I was standing in line for about an hour.
At 2 in the morning.
There was
Yeah.
one register open and about
Yep.
400 people in line.
Yep.
But it was cheap.
Yeah.
The stuff was cheap.
So was the meth.
And that was actually probably the only place in Homestead you could ever buy anything anyway at that point. Like that
Yeah.
city has got, quite the metropolis now, but it's
Booming.
yeah.
Still the
booming.
mutineer, though.
That's right.
The
Yeah, the
Mutineer.
Mutineer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That place. Wow. We don't go back there anymore. It's
Oh,
a
really?
shame.
Oh.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So you raced IROC in 2004.
Yeah.
What was that like? Was that the first time you'd driven anything that heavy and shitty and fun?
Yeah, it was quite the experience,
Right.
and especially with the the drivers that I think it was Steve Kinzer, Travis Quaffle, Harvick, Mark Martin. There was a funny mix, and I don't know who was the other IndyCar driver. It might have been Hornish, but I felt like I was the only guy that had never done this thing. But it was cool because I hadn't been to some of these tracks, and it was some of these places that I think they were running cup events on the same
Sure.
weekend.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was quite the experience, and especially at that time. But yeah, I felt it felt ridiculously odd.
Right. Sure.
These cars, you basically needed a tetanus shot to get in them. They were so unequal. I think that's the only. It's like going in. When you go indoor go-karting,
Exactly.
and you're like
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
the
yeah.
times.
Which
You're
one
like,
do you
it's
get?
got to be the 3 car or the 5.
Right.
And of course, you're like, oh,
No,
I did not get that one. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I want that car. And they're like, sorry,
Yeah.
we put the number on this one. So yeah, but I had some fun. I think Richmond was probably the race I enjoyed the most.
Okay.
I remember we had a massive crash. I think it was at Daytona on the front stretch. It was coming to the checker flag. Like
Right.
literally the whole field smashed into each other.
As you do.
And I think I was still last anyway. But Richmond, I think I remember, who did I hit? I think it was Harvick. And then, I knew the retaliation was coming, and he wasted me later. But I don't know. It was fun because it was it was literally like going indoor
didn't matter.
go-karting. It
Yeah.
didn't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was went to some interesting places. It was cool to hang out with that group of drivers,
Sure.
and then understand that the thing that kind of I struggled with to start with. When we did Atlanta, Daytona, that might have been the only big tracks, but Daytona especially was with the drafting and
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so foreign. Sure.
it was pretty odd, but it was cool to learn some of the side draft tricks and different stuff. But yeah. But, yeah.
So rumor has it, speaking of driving big, heavy objects, that to make ends meet when you were a kid, that you drove like a chemical van.
Yeah.
And
What were you hauling around?
yeah,
Chemicals.
But of what? Like,
So it was like cleaning products.
if you so if you crash, it doesn't like create a dinosaur
Yeah, no,
or
it's
a
just be
zombie or
very
something.
soapy. That
Yeah.
was about it. Yeah, it was.
the biggest sheep ever. He's coming at us.
The van I loved. The van I loved. Thank you very much. The van. I can't even remember what it was. It was like a. It wasn't a Toyota Hiace. It was like a Mitsubishi something or other. But it was the column change.
Right.
Had a radio in it that didn't work, but had a tape player and it had a tape stuck in it.
And what was that
And
tape?
what was it say?
Yeah, it was Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. It wasn't even the whole record. It was just that song.
Just a single.
Just a single,
Just
yeah,
a
yeah.
single.
So
This was
yeah,
back when there were cassette singles that were out there.
that's right.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
the cassette single of Ice Ice Baby. So
Was there
that-
like a B-side, or was it literally just the one song?
No, it it might have even just been a copy. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
somebody
yeah,
had
it's a
just copied
bootleg.
it, but yeah, bootlegs because that was the only song on it. So yeah, that was man, I drove that thing like some days from it'd be like 8 in the morning to 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Right.
And,
Just straight Ice Ice
there
Baby.
was days where I actually enjoyed it, listening to Vanilla Ice on repeat. And then there was days where I didn't listen to it for several hours. But yeah, that's quite the tune, man.
So we were told you can rap the entire thing, but you don't have to here.
No,
But if you want to. Word for word, but you know
word for word. There was a point I could definitely do it.
Right.
I would need some backing,
Right.
some backing for it.
Right.
But I would say I know that song a lot better than any
Sure.
others. But yeah, Vanilla Iceman, he's the man. I think he follows me on Twitter too, and Dario. Yeah. I can't even remember. It's somehow actually that story happened with Jenna Fryer too, and then
Okay.
Jenna Fryer reached out on Twitter, or we started talking about it. Might have been when Vanilla was maybe getting released from prison or something, or was in prison. Was he? He was, right?
I don't know.
I don't know about that. I mean, you might be right. I have
don't
no
know.
idea.
Whatever.
They're gonna sue you, not me.
Yeah. So
It's
he,
on you.
so then he started responding on the Twitter chain,
Right.
and so yeah.
And this is like 2 or 3 years ago, right?
More maybe, because it was when Dario and I were so maybe 4 years.
Okay,
ago.
4 years
Yeah,
ago. That's
yeah.
when you made it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When Vanilla
that
Ice
was
4
started.
years ago.
Yeah.
is
That
when
was
you made
the
it.
defining part
Yeah,
of my career
right.
and my life was was while
2 kids? Nah.
while Vanilla Ice was in prison, he followed me on Twitter.
Which
pretty
he was
awesome.
there for murder.
Was it?
I can't remember.
No, I don't think it was.
Are you sure?
sure?
Or you get some headlines.
I'm sure it was like tax evasion.
Right.
You know. But he has like a building show now on
Yeah,
like,
he
did hear
flips
about
houses.
that.
Yeah,
some home.
he
yeah,
takes
yeah.
houses and restores them and
Yeah.
does the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's his gig.
I haven't watched it. I wonder if he still raps. I wonder if he does Vanilla Ice on it.
Well, so that leads to 2 questions. We were talking about this offline. Do you strike us as a guy who maybe sits down and watches weird TV at
Uh-huh.
home? Is this true?
I think I'm pretty much run of the mill with like Narcos and
okay.
House of Cards.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not watching like Bravo and Below Deck or anything like that.
No.
What are those?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is
Don't get me
that?
started. Yeah.
But the treehouse one is pretty, where they build tree houses.
Sure.
And then tiny houses.
Tiny
another good
houses,
one.
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
so. I guess I'm at, what is that network? HGTV or something?
No.
Home. I don't know.
Yeah,
Home.
that's right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Sure. No, you're doing a good job of pretending like you don't know.
Yeah. Keep coming out with these bloody shows. Yeah. So nothing too crazy, I don't think. No.
Do the girls own the TV? Like, in other words, like it's just nothing but Peppa Pig and stuff like that.
Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol, Peppa
Yeah.
Pig, Barbie movies.
Frozen.
Frozen was crazy there for a
Oh,
while.
especially
man.
2 sisters.
That
yeah.
was
Yeah.
that was. I think we had that actually. It was the time before the other manufacturer when I drove for Honda at the same period.
Look at that.
Um,
Utmost
man.
professional right
Company
there.
man.
Yeah. Welcome
I
I
back,
think
by
Frozen.
the way.
Yeah. I think Frozen was on repeat in that thing. So
Sure.
yeah.
Now, are you the dad that'll line up at the Disney store 2 hours early to make sure you get the dress?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you have people?
I'll
Yeah.
be bad that
Do you have
I
people
will
for that?
pay a stupid amount of money
Yeah.
for it
Yeah.
Okay.
after they
Yeah.
put it on
Yeah,
eBay.
yeah. My kind of guy. I'm in.
Yeah, I'll line up. I've done a good majority of like the Apple phone releases. Stood in
okay.
line, for stupid amounts of hours. Not days, just hours. But
So Dario has a Jim Clark room because that's like his thing, and he obviously has a car collection. What's Scott Dixon's vice? Like, is it bicycles or?
Dario's ridiculous, man. He has like his undies from his first go-kart race and stuff. Did you know that?
He did not mention that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
said he's got like his suits in chronological order. That's about his
Suits.
That's about as OCD
Yeah,
as he went.
underwear as well. I'm like, why would you keep that, man? He's like, well, that balaclava was from this and that. I'm like, man, it's a stinky balaclava, and like, 'cause none of it's washed either,
Yeah, but say that
because it's got to be authentic.
The American term is hoarder.
hoarder.
Yeah. They have TV shows about that.
Yeah.
He is a hoarder. He is a so me, racing stuff, not so much. Like I literally in my office, I have my championship trophies. I think I have couple of sports person of the year stuff from New Zealand. Obviously, Borg Warner.
Obviously.
Like
well,
we
yeah,
do.
no,
Yeah,
like that.
like
would
we
you
would
get-
know.
I don't-
No,
I didn't
no,
get
I mean,
mine.
I'm meaning as in that would be there because it's
course,
a
of
very
course.
big achievement for myself. But I have no pictures in the whole house
Was there like a thing that's like, like Montoya is all about RC airplanes as well as like a bunch of other stuff, but like what's your like
Yeah,
thing
so
that's
my advice would be watches.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
vintage.
Okay.
Rolex, really. Vintage Rolex. So that's kind of, it actually annoys my wife a ton.
So just some random stuff. One of our favorite Scott Dixon clips is Sonoma warm-up last year.
Oh, yeah.
When you're going into 2 and then Will flies by you into the dirt and you just give the wank hand gesture. Is that the real Scott Dixon? What the fuck, man?
Well,
Chaucer.
I think because of the, Will and I, the relationship we have too is he's Australian, I'm Kiwi. It's, there's always a big sports rivalry between the two, and we constantly just take the piss out of each other on that front. So when he did it, because when I think you can see too, I look and I'm like, what the f*** is this guy doing? And
So
then when
if you go to YouTube, look up, like, is it Scott Dixon warm-up or something like that?
Yeah, probably.
I think
But anyway,
it'll
go
pop
on.
up straight away. But yeah, that was just because I always call him a wanker. Like because in America you can actually use the term wanker quite freely. I feel.
It's not a.
It's like
not,
the opposite of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like here
Yeah,
you can never
which-
say.
yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, and like
Yeah.
everyone in Australia is just calling. Yeah.
Well, in New Zealand,
Yeah.
like you'd be like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, how are you? You're a good."
Yeah.
Like this is the thing.
Yeah.
And then when I came
Yeah.
to America, like, and I remember walking in an airport, and it was one of the team guys, and I walk up and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And this lady turns around and she like gives me this death stare, and I'm like, "Oh,
What have I
what
done?
have I done?"
Yeah.
So that's when I learned how bad was.
Yeah.
And that was just, I'm like, when I saw it, I'm like, you f***ing wanker.
Yeah.
Like, I just was laughing on my helmet, and then because I knew we'd have the camera on too, so I was like, yeah, gave him the tossing sign. Oh, you can't say tossing though. Can you say tossing?
No one knows what it
No
means
one knows
here.
what that is here. Yeah.
Oh, tosser.
Same with wanker.
I'll
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
using that more freely.
You definitely say
Because
it for
Power actually had the balls to use wanker quite often in interviews, and I was
Right.
like, man.
Because over here they don't
No one
really
knows that.
no,
register.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like in New Zealand, you couldn't use that. You can't even say over here, right?
No.
Yeah,
I
what
mean,
the
you can
hell?
on our podcast. We don't care. We bleep it all.
Obviously, you guys have like the country rivalry. Is there another guy in the sport that we might not realize you have like that rivalry with? Like, I wondered when Bourdais went to the 4GT program and you were in the 4GT program, is there anything like I need to be the better IndyCar guy at least? Or is it just like, just do your job?
It's just doing your job, really.
Yeah.
Like, you're so far separated even between the two teams. And there's a big rivalry between those two teams. So it's, they won it all, with the 24-hour Daytona and Le Mans. So, they obviously, they did a hell of a job. But, no, I don't see it that way. I feel like we spend more time together because we are actually out of the car a lot more. So we have to amuse ourselves. With a lot of extra time. So
That's why we created this podcast.
which with Bourdais can be tough at times. But no, he
Basically, you're saying he's awful.
No, he's French.
Headlines.
He's French. Yeah.
It's just everybody knows as soon as you say that, everybody knows what you're talking about. But I don't know. Elio, I think is it's funny. Like I love Elio. And I was at the Bonacconi Fund. He was there too on Monday. And even after the race at Sonoma, when he was kind of like, "Oh, this could be my last race in IndyCar," which it's, I'm sure it's not going to be. He'll do other races, but he was like, "Man, and I look in my mirrors, and then I'm racing you for the whole day." And I was like, "Yeah, you annoy the out of me on track, man, because like all that, like most 90% of the crashes that I've had with somebody else on track has been with him." And like, he has his like fake little, blocks, and then or he's T-boned me several times, but I've had a lot of fun times on and off track with Elio. He's a fun person. He's got a lot of energy. But I've enjoyed racing with him. But he's probably a guy when I see on track, I'm like, "Oh,
here we go."
Seriously,
Yeah.
And he I know thinks exactly the same as me. So that's why I'm saying it. It doesn't bother me. But I always know he's going to be probably the toughest guy to pass. And if it's a fuel saving situation, he's 90% of the time going to ruin my race because I can't get around him.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've had this running joke about you and fuel saving for forever, because any IndyCar race, if you're following it on Twitter while it's happening and they mention fuel saving, it's immediately like Dixon. It's like nobody in the world knows how to save fuel except Scott Dixon apparently, and that might be true. But I wonder if there's also like an engineering department that's like, give him all the credit. It's all him, not the map I made or like the things we discussed. It's all the driver. And as a driver, I'm like, yeah, that's all me. Yeah, I did that. But I'm always wondering, like, there's got to be a guy on the pit box that's like, really? Like, can I get a little bit of credit here?
I don't know. It's something that I think suits my style and what I'm naturally just able to do. Like even. Yeah, I don't know. Like there was periods of my career where that was something that I really had to learn, had to do it well. So yes, there's people that taught me along the way. Sure. Now it's just it's a natural occurrence on our team that we don't really even have to think about it.
Right.
That it's
part of the plan.
We'll use this map and it's part of the arsenal. So it's a tool.
Yeah.
But it is the thing that amuses me is the people that try to do it too. Like watching Tony Kanaan try and save fuel is the funniest thing ever. Because he'll like do a good lap and he's like, oh yeah, I got it, pretty good. Yeah. And then the next lap will be horrible, and then he gets so angry at it that he ends up burning more fuel.
Yeah.
So it's
might as well just driven.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny, but I think it's I like a car that's very neutral, very loose. So it's a scenario where you can lift off and just roll the speed. Yeah, whereas if TK likes a car with very good rear. Understeers quite a bit more, so you can't roll that center part of the corner, and I think that's where it naturally is just a thing that comes with the style of my driving. Sure. But yeah, it is interesting to watch people try and do it. that struggle with it.
What sells me is the
Alio's another one. As soon as I know, like at Road America, I knew when we were looking at it and it's going to be a fuel race. I'm like, Alio's going to be fucked. And then TK would be like, "Yeah, we're going to add a stop. We're not actually even going to try."
Right. We're just going to add a stop. That's excellent.
Speaking of driving styles, you did get a couple F1 tests, from what I understand. Obviously, they I don't know if that was the aspiration or if it was just like I want to try it out and see where it goes. How would you rate those experiences?
Yeah, BMW V10. Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, when you drive the car." Montoya was still driving for Williams at the time. I think he was on his way out, going to McLaren.
Yeah, he's going to McLaren. Yeah.
So, he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "Wait till you try the brakes." But even when I, gassed the thing for the first time, I'm like, "Holy f***, this thing's got some power!" Like, and torque, man. Like, part of the installation. Lap, that was the hard thing too, is like, had this wheel with all these buttons, and part of the installation, you had to do all these clutch bites, you had to do all this procedure, then you drove out of the pits, then like on the back straight, you got to go to 7th gear, then you've got to go to 3,000 RPM, and then go flat and get it all the way to the limiter, or to as far as you could go, not to the limiter, because it wouldn't go there, but the amount of torque the thing had from that low RPM, and just you're in top gear, and that was when I was like, bloody hell.
And you had driven a champ car, so like what
to expect.
Fast cars,
but just the acceleration, like I think that the champ car ultimately had less drag probably, and it kept accelerating a lot further. But that thing just, the stop go, it was so light, and just to get into a car that does everything right, within whatever the tire can do. But yeah, it was cool. Barcelona was a little tougher. It rained a lot, but the team was a lot of fun. I remember when I first got in the car, there was a picture of a sheep on the steering wheel, and then actually I got a departing gift after the Barcelona test. I spun off, and I don't even know which. It's that inner kind of shoe. I don't know which number it was, but they gave me a bag, a nice Williams plastic bag full of rocks.
Nice.
That they took out of the radiator intake. It's amazing experience, amazing car to drive. And I loved it. It was definitely difficult time too, because we'd only been racing ovals, at that point. So going back to a road course, and I will say too that that was the first time I started left foot braking, because when I got in the car, I did the seat fit, and I'm like, oh, there's only 2 pedals and there's a divider down the center.
Yeah.
And so that was that's when I
so you
started
didn't have a
left
choice.
foot. I'd never left foot brake in my life.
Interesting.
And I should have probably researched it a little bit more going into it. But yeah, and that's I've been left foot braking ever since. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, speaking of your happiness in IndyCar, we have a pass along question where previous guests asked you something and so on. We were with Dr. Jerry Punch yesterday, and Ryan, he got a good question for you.
Yeah. So his question for you was, if you could pick one place to go, one car, one race, anywhere, what would it be? And you get testing time. You're on pace. You know.
From any era.
He didn't ask that,
He
but
didn't
I
ask that,
actually,
but
yeah, let's
sure,
do it.
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Any car, any team, months of practice.
Yeah, you're on pace. You're ready to go. It's gonna be a fair fight for you.
I'd have to pick Watkins Glen would be the track. I'm guessing you'd have to go Formula One. Yeah, I'd probably go with the Williams. What was the ground effects
Like
car?
93,
94.
Yeah.
The you mean the electronics one?
Yeah.
The 14B.
Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
the FW14B.
Yeah. So that would at Watkins Glen.
Okay. That's a good choice.
Yeah, that'd be
So you like
mega.
video games?
Yeah, I need to
Like
do that one. But I don't know, that the 80s to early 90s era was just, I don't know, for me that was, motor racing was so cool.
Yeah.
You know, the technology changing, you know, how, you know, open it was to the things that people were coming up with, and the speeds and the power, and yeah, that would be it.
So we're having dinner with Doug Bowles from Indianapolis Motor Speedway tonight.
Oh yeah.
Familiar with him?
Yeah,
You
of
know?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doug's a good guy. He just had his birthday, right, last week, I think.
Yeah, we know about that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't ask him if he got a present off me, but no, he didn't.
Dixon says you're old now.
Yeah.
We brought you some soy sauce. Yeah. So we're having dinner with him at the Pagoda. Something we're not sure. Maybe on the Yard of Bricks.
Oh man, he's
he's a
flashing
showman.
it up
Yeah,
for you
But,
guys.
but he
eh?
doesn't know who we are.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's like
I'm sure he does. I'm
he
sure he does.
He called us last night to figure out like the catering he's going to set up for us.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
it's
Like,
just Ryan.
No, we were going to bring a
Man.
pizza.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like trying to gauge him, like, do you know about what? Because I'm like, this is way too overblown for us. I'm like, are you familiar with our podcast? He's like, this is always the giveaway.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen all of them.
Oh,
Like,
seen. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
Yeah, that'd be bad.
I'll guarantee you haven't seen
Yeah.
all of them. So,
So, Doug, do you know what a podcast is? Yeah.
that's always the giveaway.
Yeah, so we're going there next for dinner. Any pass-along question you could think of for Doug Bowles? Doesn't have to be racing related. It could be
Boxers, briefs, tidy whities.
Sure,
No,
yeah.
no,
Question
it's
one.
men, women,
Yeah.
tall, short.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I know the funny thing with Doug is, like, I know him so well, you know, with the speedway and doing events and shooting
Right.
shit about IndyCar and the race and the tracks and even, you know, the Red Bull Air Race. So I don't know. I guess I don't know much about. And it
Doesn't
might
have to be racing.
No, it's what
What's
I'm
with the
saying.
suits, man?
Well, yeah, that's the first thing that, you know, who picks out your wardrobe, which I'm pretty sure it's his wife, Beth. But yeah, I don't know, hobbies, I guess. That's always for me, like you always hear so much about like this other person and what they do, but you know, what other hobbies, or you know, what does he do away from the speedway? Because man, he's so ingrained in the speedway. Like when you call him, you know, he just lives, breathes, eats,
This is what he
talks
does, yeah.
everything about the speedway, which is cool to see because he's very passionate.
Watches. What are the Scott Dixon hobbies? Like, do you do your own yard work?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got we got 26 trees at home that got to come down this weekend, so I got to cut
And
some
you're doing that
trees.
yourself?
I'm gonna have some friends over for a couple of beers.
Yeah.
Bring your chainsaws.
Can we come?
Yeah, sure. Have you got some rope and chainsaw?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bring
cool,
that with us.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the watch thing is quite a fanatical thing. I love tech and gadgets and crap like that. But yeah, triathlons. You know, I love doing.
Me too.
You know, triathlons, cycling, the training thing for me is part and parcel.
You actually
of
enjoy
of
it.
that. Yeah, I
You're
do
not just
enjoy it.
tired when it's over.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you get tired, but
but it's like the part of it you enjoy.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
pass.
But anything outdoor too. So I love shooting. So clay birds.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know
which
Willie
is,
T. Ribs?
Yeah. Yep. He's very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very
We're
good.
excited to meet him.
And I think is his son?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah, he's like
is
super
super.
competitive.
Yeah.
Do you hunt or just clay pigeons?
No,
Yeah.
goes back to my wife would
Yeah,
kill me if
we-
I hunted.
too
So
well.
yeah. I've meant to have gone on a few hunts, but
you'd have to hide
I knew the wrath of going home would be way worse. So
Yep.
um,
Let's say you do a lot of triathlons, right? Like, aren't you an Ironman? You have Ironman?
I've done half, so I've never
Half
done a
Ironman?
full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was told you beat Tony Kanaan. And
Yeah, Tony's just not built for it, man. He's very good on the bike.
Yeah.
He's quite short, so running is not a strength for him.
Sure.
And then he's very dense, right? Like you look at, I think he weighs 3 pounds less than me,
Oh, wow.
and he's
Wow.
about
Yes,
a
you got
foot
a few
shorter.
inches.
Yeah.
So but he has such a passion for it,
Yeah.
and like the guy, his will to overcome things is
Sure.
it's pretty cool to watch. But no, he's very good. Like he can do a half Ironman in 5 hours, which is tough for anybody to do. So it was funny because I did a half Ironman in 2006, and he was meant to come, and he didn't turn up.
Ah.
And
I feel like you were going to say something else there before you changed it.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so
I was
then
like, did I catch it?
You already said it once. It's too late.
yeah. TK's gonna kill
The
me. But
proverbial
then
cat is out of the bag.
but then so then he's like, oh, you got to come and do another half. I'm like, man. I was like, I've only done sprints. I haven't been doing any of that long stuff lately. And he's like, oh, well, do it this year. And I think it was 2015. And I was like, all right, man. I was like, if you can help me with a bike, because I had my still original bike from 2006.
Well, yeah.
So I needed to get the latest and greatest, and I knew he had the contacts to make it happen.
Sure.
So I think it was 6 weeks before the race, or so, backing up a little bit during the season. He's like, yeah, I'll get the bike. And I'm like, it's not coming. So I'm like, thank God, I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to do this. And 6 weeks before the half, he's like, oh, the bike's coming. It'll be there next week. I'm like,
Yeah.
So yeah, we ended up training. We're all at a very fit level anyway.
Yeah.
So you just kind of
Change it up.
changing it up
Adjust
to
to that, yeah.
adjusting to that. But yeah, ended up. And then we were talking smack before the race, and I mentioned in some interview to somebody, they were like, "Oh, so how fast do you plan on going?" I said, I'd be disappointed if I didn't go under 5 hours. And Tony read this. He's like, 5 hours, man? Like, are you serious? Like 5 hours? Like, that's really hard to do, right? Like, talking big game, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, it sounded good at the time, man. Like, I don't know. And so, yeah, ended up, I think I did the race right at 4 hours, 50 minutes. 4:50,
Nice.
yeah.
All right.
New high score. Did I break it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And,
Is that good?
I was like, man, that bike was fast, dude. That was where all the time was.
Man, it was at least 30 minutes faster than it would have been.
So, no, but Tony's he's a lot of fun. Have you guys done one with Tony?
No, but after talking to Dario.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Dario let us know
Yeah.
that, and may have shown us off air, that Tony is the guy in the group text that comes out with the winners.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's very dirty. He's Brazilian, so they're dirty, man.
Yeah,
and,
the thing he showed us, we were like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
No,
Some
yeah.
of it, I'm like, I should probably delete that off my phone, because if anybody ever sees it on my phone, they're gonna
Yeah.
think differently of me. But
Yeah, right.
he's like a little caricature. It's weird. Like I said, like in our engineering room, there's 20 or 24 people, and they're
it's
there's
just
one,
like GT
one
racing.
row down
It's
here.
pretty much the same as my NSX.
Yeah,
truck.
exactly. Yeah, and
Minus
then one row
20.
down this side, and I sit opposite Tony, and just the noises that come across the table that he makes explaining the car, the engine sounds, to the tires locking up.
Right.
It's like you're watching some character. It's the noises are just he's I don't know. He's funny as hell, and his stories. It's like, once Tony gets the story, how many versions it's changed and how big it's got. Like,
Much more dramatic.
he
it gets,
literally has a big nose for a reason. There's truth to some of the stories,
Right,
but
right.
when it gets Tony-ified, I like to call it, it becomes a much better story. But yeah, man, the guy is hilarious and such a big personality. Like, it's funny.
Yeah.
Funny.
Do you ever do impressions?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. No.
I mean,
They're like- I'm just curious what these noises are.
Oh, so we had a team manager that was talking. It was Barry Wanzer, and he was talking about how he just started playing tennis with his son, blah 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 blah. And so then Tony goes on to this whole thing about Barry playing tennis and and is going through the whole dinner, and then the sounds he was making of Barry and like how he's wiping sweat. It just goes into this big show. Like it's
Right.
trust me, if you do one of these with him, you will be laughing your ass off.
Absolutely. So recently, a very popular video came out of you surprising a young fan.
Oh yeah.
Was she local?
Yeah, Lucy. It was the
Lucy,
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
right.
So so after the big accident in Indianapolis, she'd written a letter to IndyCar, explained how upset she was and hoping that I was okay and thanked IndyCar for the safety and blah 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 blah. But such a very sweet letter. But to go to lots. I wouldn't say lots. Very few people actually go to the extent of writing something like that, but then to making sure it got sent.
Yeah.
And just by chance,
Jake Query.
so he's down at IndyCar, just shooting the going through, and then he sees like they have all this mail that comes in, and so then he's like, he put it on Twitter. It went crazy. Then I saw it and said, hey, I hope to meet you someday.
Right.
And so then time passes a little bit because we go from Indianapolis to Detroit to Texas to Lamar to we had like 8 weeks in a row, and so then like, hey, we're going to get together and meet Lucy. I'm like, this is fantastic. This will be so cool. And she actually lives probably 2 minutes from our house. It's actually a road I run down to get to the Monon Trail when I do my my runs.
No clue.
And so pull up there and kind of hide around the back and to see her and her expression and just the shock, I think, a little bit too. It was just, it was so cool. But such a sweet girl. But it just, for me, for someone to go to that extent, nobody really does that these days.
Yeah.
It's so cool to see.
Yeah, well, not that I wouldn't expect that out of you. I just haven't seen that side of you before.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things. Well, actually, I follow you on social, and you do a lot with your daughters.
Yeah.
You seem like a really good dad.
Oh, thank you.
Like you seem very engaged.
I'm not really.
No.
Well,
when you're around.
Yeah.
But no, you seem very attentive, and like it's just neat to see. And then you go and do that video with Lucy. I was like, okay, I've always thought you were a pretty cool guy, but I was like, that guy's a role model.
That was one of those things in your life that I'm always going to remember that.
Now you risk the possibility of like a 40-year-old dude from like outside of town that's like, dear Scott, you're my favorite, please.
So this all happened by chance. I think it was just meant to be.
Hey Scott, it's
I
Ricky.
I don't think Ricky's letter's going to be found.
Yeah, huge fan. Check out this tattoo. It's my whole back.
We can't let you go without going to the obvious story. Of May this year, Taco Bell.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think people understand. You win the poll, you're not done at this point. It's hours and hours and hours, and this year got a lot of attention. So kind of walk us through, what is that process like that eventually you like, we need to eat. Where are we? So.
Yeah, it's I think poll is done at 6, like right at 6 o'clock. I don't know, right before. And then you go through the ceremonial stuff of the trophy, blah 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 blah, all the pictures. So that goes on for a while, and then you do a media hit. Then you do satellite media tour as well. So you sit in a chair for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You're staring at a camera, talking to somebody in your ear. And then I think by the time flies when you're having fun, man. It's about 9:30, and we were meant to go, I think, downtown to the Italian at the JW. We had a booking for that night because Dario was in, his wife Ali and Sophia, his little girl, had just come into town too. So we were all trying to catch up. But get back to the bus. And everybody's obviously waiting. Poppy was with us actually. Tilly had already gone home with Diane, so we're like, hey, what do we do? We've got no dinner. So that's when Dario
it's like Sunday in Indy. Like
there's
nothing's open.
Nothing's open. So Dario and I were like, of course, I like Taco Bell. So I was like, hey, man, let's go to Taco Bell. He's like, yeah,
We can get away with
cool,
this
no
one.
problem.
Yeah.
So we were like, because Emma's like, oh, we'll just come. And then I was like, no, you guys stay here. We'll just go get it. We'll come back.
Right. Because you're staying at the track.
We're staying
in
at the
bus.
track. I was staying at the track because for the next morning for front row photos, you have to be at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So because
we've all been there.
we
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
You practice all day Monday again
Yeah,
too. So
yeah.
it's a bit of just continuous. So we jump in the car. I get in the car and I realize, man, I haven't got a wallet. I'd locked my wallet in the team truck. So I go in. I'm like, hey, babe, can I, to my wife, can I grab your wallet?
Yeah.
So we drive to Taco Bell, and we pull in, and I'm like, hey man, what do you want? What do you want to get to order? So I pull up and I put the window down and start talking to the box, and the guy's like, hey, hold on a second. And then I saw something in the mirror, and then so I look, and then I could see somebody walking beside the car. I start to get the window, and the window's starting to come up, and then the gun comes in the car, and then the other guy starts smashing on Dario's window, and you could tell they were very agitated. And there was a car in front of us, so we couldn't go forward,
Right.
to try and get out of the way. And then obviously we couldn't go backwards because the guy's like right there. So he's yelling. He's like, hey, he kept just saying wallet. Give us your wallets. Give us your wallets. And I was like, oh, Dario and I were actually both pretty calm because at this point I'm like, this is the prank. Like somebody's pranking us.
Plus with Dario, there's like
and because TK's the worst at that shit. Like he's the
He
worst.
might just want to settle down. If
Yeah,
it's to
yeah.
this
I'm
level.
like, man, this is going pretty far. And so I'm like, I said, and I handed him my wife's wallet because I'm like, I didn't have my wallet, and I'm like, I don't have my wallet. So then the other guy starts getting really pissed off and tries to start to smash Dario's window because Dario's Scottish, very short arms, and couldn't find his pockets.
He's trying to gun
He
someone.
probably left that part out
Yeah.
of it, and
Yeah.
and Dario's, oh, I haven't got a
He
wallet.
basically said that about you.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Bullshit. So
Kiwi and a snot.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So then the guy on Dario's side starts saying cell phones.
Yeah.
Give us your cell phones. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I just came from the track. My cell phone's at the track.
Yeah.
And then this guy, is getting all wigged out. And but luckily at that point when we had nothing more to give, even though Dario had his frickin' wallet and his phone in his pocket.
Willing to die for it.
He was.
Willing to
It seemed
die for
like
it.
he was willing to die for it. I had the cell phone in my pocket, but I was like, surely these guys are gonna leave. We gave them a wallet.
Yeah.
Any minute now they're gonna you're gonna be punked or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Tony Canand. And
Right.
so then luckily a car pulls up behind us and kind of freaks them out a bit, and they take off.
Yeah.
And then, like, literally 5 seconds later, the guy comes on the thing. He's like, so you guys want to order? And I'm like, oh, my God. Just crazy.
So
but
you
yeah,
did.
so we did order. No. I called the cops. And
Needed my chalupa.
yeah. So I think I backed up, and I called the cops. And then they came, and once they heard from the first cop who it was like frickin' 10 cop cars.
Yeah,
yeah,
It was
yeah.
like this whole.
Well, the
We're
way
gonna get
Dario
these
put it,
assholes. Yeah.
Dario told us as soon as you dialed it, he's like, they're going to record this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Play
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Play cool,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah. Oh, that's what he said.
That's what he claims
I was
he
cool
said.
anyway, man. I don't
I'm
know.
not arguing.
No.
That's not
The
my
Iceman.
fight.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
I was
man.
like, hey, we just got robbed at Taco Bell, and
Yeah, it's Scott.
at
Hey, yeah,
gunpoint.
we got.
Yeah. So then we park, we wait for the cops. Cops turn up, and I remember actually right after the guys leave, the two guys leave. I remember just looking at Dario. I'm like, did that just happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were just so shocked at and I'm like, man, do you think that gun was real? I don't think that gun was real because it was like rattling weird. But in turn, I think it was. I think they found it later. But yeah, crazy. Cops turn up. Like
Yeah.
then they had it on the video
Right.
of the whole thing going down, and then they could see where the guys had parked the car later on.
Sure.
But then we get to order.
Yeah.
We got to.
Gotta
I got to get my cheesy gordita crunch with beans instead of beef.
Good.
And
Good.
we didn't have to pay because we had never did. Well, Dario still had his wallet, but he still.
He's like, yeah, we don't have our
He
wallet.
still didn't dig that out. And so we got a free. I think it was about $40 worth of Taco Bell. And Yeah, and then we had to go ID them later, which was pretty crazy.
So it was like the lineup and the whole thing?
No, so they just caught these guys not far from where we were. So they'd had them in a bit of a car chase, and so one they got in the car once they stopped the car, and then the other had run through some houses. But yeah, so when they come and pick you up, actually they split you straight away. So we were put in both separate cop cars.
Yeah,
You and Dario.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, so
Make sure the story's the same.
Yeah.
Right?
So
And they record everything. It was quite an interesting
Yeah.
process. But even with the detective at the Taco Bell, it was the process that they go through to try and trigger your memories, man, was pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Like I watch all these, 2020.
you thought you were an
and all
expert
this
on
stuff.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
but to see how they function was.
You're trying to help. They're like, settle down, dude.
Yeah. You're like, It's,
all right, there, David Caruso.
Yeah.
No, we got it, Dixon. Jesus.
But then we had to drive and ID them.
While eating
one-
the Taco Bell. Like, are
Yeah,
you
like,
literally
already-
eating?
guys,
You're like,
I just
yeah,
wanted this.
Probably
it was
him.
probably 2 hours later. I was in bed,
Yeah.
and then I saw my phone ring. I didn't recognize the number. I'm like, I'm not going to answer that till tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then Dario calls me. He's like, hey man, they just called. So, but yeah, one of the kids had been chewed up by the police dog a fair bit. But yeah, it's situation, wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
Pretty much how my Indy 500 went.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
you got robbed twice in 1 week.
Yeah, tick that box, man.
Yeah.
Definitely done with getting held up by
At gunpoint.
At gunpoint.
Yeah.
Right.
So Detroit's out.
Yeah, yeah. But that was it was pretty insane.
All right. Yeah. Well, Dario's waiting in the car, so we got to go back to him, and Continental's got the check.
Oh, really? Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
I'm finished.
God bless Scott Dixon. I absolutely love that we were able to get the personality that we've long been told was there with that guy. So, anyway, one other shout out, by the way, Tegry Sushi, who we've been to like 17 times by this point. One of my favorite places to go when we go to Indianapolis. And they get plenty of shout outs, but that's because they're one of the most accommodating restaurants we could have ever asked for. But moving on, want to give a quick shout out to 3 fans who mentioned Scott Dixon in their guest submissions. Ben McFarland, Dan Kincaid, and Neil Wanot. Sorry if I'm butchering it. Or anybody else that we may have missed, because that can happen. But we will go ahead and move on to the next of our new music submissions. We actually don't get a whole lot of rap and hip-hop submissions from sort of outside. Most of the times that we play anything in hip-hop or R&B, it's coming from our own sort of network of friends. But this is an actual music submission from somebody we'd never met, a guy by the name of Novacaine, and I thought it would be appropriate for Mr. Dixon, just because Scott mentioned his small affinity for rap, and Mr. the Novacaine mentions wanting to be a rapper quite a few times in his song. This is a song which is not inferring anything, honest to God, but this is a song called I Should Have Went to College, and you can find it on Spotify. Again, the name is Novacaine, and I'll say no more.
Yeah. Mama told me I should have went to college. I said, Ma, I can't do that. Oh, man. I want to be a rapper. My mama said I should have went to college. I want to be a rapper, though. I want to be a rapper. Hit the stage and make a lot of dough. Hit the stage and make that money. I said I want to be a rapper, though. Oh. My mama said I should have went to college. I want to be a rapper, though. I want to be a rapper. Hit the stage and make a lot of dough. Hit the stage and make that money. I said I want to be a rapper, though. Oh. My mama said I should've went to. My mama said I should've went to college. I told her nah, cause I'd rather be the hottest. To tour the world and hit the stage at every college. I'm a boss, I'ma show you that I got it. Yeah, I'm getting paper just for laying down a track. And I don't even rap about the drugs or the trap. 20,000 for a show, man, I call that easy rap. Even if I went to college, but they couldn't teach me that. Man, I'm always having fun when I'm rocking with y'all. Novacaine well rounded, so you know I'm a ball. If you rather go to college, I don't knock you at all. I just rather hit the booth and keep on rapping for y'all. Oh man, I wanna be a rapper though. I wanna be a rapper. Hit the stage and make a lot of dough. I should've went to college. I told her, nah, music got my mind clouded. To be a doctor, not for me, I'm not about it. To be a lawyer, not for me, I'm not about it. Yeah, I got a friend that go to college and he rap. He be like Novacaine, I wish I would've stuck with that. I don't wanna be like him, I don't wanna have regrets. I just rather hit the bank and keep on cashing all my checks. Every time I'm on the mic, man, I rock it for y'all. Got this game sold up, it's in my pocket for sure. If you rather go to college, I don't knock you at all. I just rather hit the booth and keep on rapping for y'all. Oh man, my mama said I should've went to college. I wanna be a rapper though. I wanna be a rapper. Hit the stage and make a lot of dough. Hey, I said I wanna be a rapper though. Oh, my mama said I should've went to college. I wanna be a rapper though. I wanna be a rapper. Hit the stage and make a lot of dough. Hey, I said I wanna be a rapper though. Oh, my mama said I should've went to. I ain't going to no dang college.